Ishbaka? This is Jared Yao checking in. I wanted to come on here and talk a little bit about, um, a concept that was, I guess, revealed several years ago in a movie. On this channel, we do movie interpretation and um, look to see what some of this modern day mythology is actually representing, right? So we understand, if you guys have been following the channel, we understand that the premise of all movies is some sort of psychological response. Um, we understand that here in the modern era, we understand that Joseph Goebbels, 100 years ago, when he first saw, and Joseph Goebbels is the Nazi propagandist, the one that was able to brainwash an entire country, the entire country of Germany, into becoming, a nation full of murderers, really, of people who were complicit in the crimes of Nazi Germany. The nation itself was brainwashed into serving this one um, fascist cause, right? This one genocidal cause in a very similar way to how Israel is right now. So the minister of propaganda in Germany for the Nazi Party, Joseph Goebbels, saw the motion picture 100 years ago when it was first invented and said, this is going to be the most powerful tool for propaganda of all time. And we look in around that same era, you have the birth of Hollywood, right? And so we see that movies are actually weapons and they're used in various means to, promote a violent or satanic doctrine, to, misinform, or even to correctly inform in a subliminal way as a way to, I heard someone say, slow reveal the plan so that people, when they see the movie, will have no excuse because the plan has already been revealed. The mind games that they play is that they warn you of some things happening in movies in subtle ways so that if you're not paying attention and miss it and fall into whatever trap is set, then, oh, okay, well, it's your fault because here it is, depicted in this movie in such a way. Right, this is the game that they play. So we understand this, and when we look at movies, we've had a couple videos discussing this already, but when we look at movies, we're not looking at them for an entertainment value. We're looking at them to decipher the subtext and to see what's going on under the surface, behind the scenes, right? So, with this being said, you have a movie that I watched years and years and years ago when I was a teenager that here in the modern era comes into the spotlight, for me at least, because it is a reveal of the method, right? It's a reveal of what reality exists within reality. Shalom, shalom, Mishpaka. We've got one person on here. Shalom, shalom. We're just talking about the the subtext to reality. We're talking about the game that is hidden within our everyday life, that we can only see pieces of because we are outside of the class of people that are participating in this game. Do you see what I'm saying? So let's talk about it. The movie came out in the 90s, 96, 97, somewhere around that time. It's called The Game with Michael Douglas. And the premise of the movie is that you've got this guy, right? And this guy is a broken guy. You know, when he was a kid, he had a major tragedy in his life. I believe his father took his own life by jumping off of a house. And, you know, he's been haunted by this, you know, this memory his whole life. But that's also made him super savvy and cutthroat in business. So he's been able to become, you know, successful, become a millionaire after this traumatic event. Super focused himself on becoming successful, but he's still a broken man with all of these, you know, unresolved traumas, and he's got an ex-wife and just issues, right? As an older man. And so his brother, who's kind of a wild card, you know, tells him that he needs to relax and he needs to let loose, and he's got the perfect way to do this. It's this realistic game that um, takes you on an adventure, and it will add some spice to your life. And you know, the guy's interested. The Michael Douglas character is interested, but you know, is pretending not to be interested, right? And so he goes to this interview for the game um, to kind of make sure that it's something that he wants to do, because he's kind of reluctant about doing it. Um, so he goes to this interview, and it's a detailed interview, a psychological interview, a physical interview, or like a physical endurance test. And they, at the end of the interview, they tell him, okay, well, unfortunately, you know, you are not qualified enough to be able to play this game. We're sorry. We'll catch you on the next one, right? And so he's like, okay, well, this is whack. I'm just going to go on about my business. And so what he doesn't recognize is that that's a part of the game. What they tell him is that figuring out the point of the game is the point of the game. And the game can be anywhere, anything, anybody in his life normally. Um, and it'll be everybody and nobody, right? And so he goes out after being rejected from this game, and the game has started. And it's everybody, people that are running into him. He looks up and he's being followed. He runs into this woman who kind of, you know, he gets fired at her job, and she, you know, kind of has nowhere to go, nothing to do, and she kind of attaches herself to him, and she's clearly a part of the game too. And it continues and gets wilder and wilder until the point where it seems like the game is like trying to kill him. He's coming home to his mansion, and his mansion is completely spray painted with all of these weird images and, you know, foul language written on the walls. And this has been a long time since I've even seen this movie. But he comes home to all this on the inside of the walls, and it looks crazy. And he calls the police. And as he's calling the police, I think he goes outside or gets locked out or something like that, and has to stay in a hotel. And he comes back the next day, and all of the graffiti is gone, right? When he's in his house, he's, you know, and he doesn't really understand what's going on. Is it part of the game? Is it not? He looks up at his TV, and there's a news broadcast on, and the broadcaster himself begins to talk directly to the Michael Douglas character and say, hey, you, Michael. Let's just say his name is Michael in the movie too. Hey, you, Michael, I'm talking to you. Yeah, you. I know I'm on this news broadcast, but we control the news broadcast. This is the game. Anything that you run into can be a clue. Everybody you run into can be either an asset or an enemy. Play the game well. The object is to survive. Do you understand what I mean? Does this sound, you guys, familiar? Does it sound like what we're experiencing today? And I don't mean the game of life or anything like that. I mean the game of celebrity. Do you understand what I mean? Do you guys remember a few years back, it's been actually a long time, when um, do you guys remember when Martin was in the middle of the highway with Martin Lawrence? You guys know Martin. Um, do you remember when he was in the middle of the highway with a pistol screaming, "They're trying to kill me"? Do you see what I'm saying? When that happened, it was, I suppose, around the time that this particular movie came out, you have these two things happen. And I remember at the time thinking, wow, this sounds like what Michael Douglas was into. Like this, because in the movie, The Game, Michael Douglas is tripping, right? All of these different things are happening to him. These people are following him. People are breaking into his house. He's chasing people and they're, like disappearing into the crowd. He goes to places where everybody in the crowd is like watching him. It's just really weird. It's this whole system that's set up within the world that knows it's a system set up within the world, but it knows it's also secret. And they're all playing the game together on your side and against you. Do you see what I'm saying? It seems like that's what Martin Lawrence was experiencing because, Michael Douglas is like, hey, they're all trying to get me. And people are like, what? What's going on? Who's trying to get you? They locked me out of my house. They spray painted my house on the inside and they erased everything real quick. They followed me home. They followed me. They're trying to kill me. And he's, sounding very similar to just a paranoid maniac running through the streets. This is, you look up, Martin is behaving this way. And you hear other celebrities talk about that situation. Um, Dave Chappelle ended up talking about Martin, later on, because he, of course, experienced similar things. Um, he goes on Oprah, Dave Chappelle does, and say, Martin's from Detroit. He's a Golden Gloves boxer. Martin is not a punk. Martin is not no paranoid, you know, just soft guy. He's, a tough guy. He's not no pushover. He said, it takes a lot to break a person like that. But we see that Martin was broken. He said, what? You have to understand that strong people don't just break. Stuff must be happening to them that you just don't know about. Dave Chappelle said, what about this industry is destroying these strong men? Do you see what I mean? When you look up at what's going on to Puff Daddy right now, you have to recognize that Puff Daddy has been in the music industry and has been a leader in the music industry since 1994, you guys. It's now 2024. So we are dealing with 50 years, 30 years of influence and control in the music industry. And if he was known for parties and wildness before he came into the music industry, anyone that you see with him, around him, palling around with him, everyone that you see with him is involved in the same things that he is. Do you see what I'm saying? They're involved in the same activities. And these activities range anywhere from, um, you know, kidnapping to trafficking to drug dealing to prostitution, anything, anything at all. Because what you guys don't recognize is that what you're seeing What you're seeing unraveling before you are the ties of the satanic cult that runs America. You guys have to recognize that there are two classes of people in America. People that are in the cult and people that aren't. Those are the two classes. The people that even know about the cult and are active in it are another class. The people that don't and are affected by it are a different class. Do you understand what I'm saying? So in the world now, in America, it's this game. You have these two classes of people, and I mean, it doesn't even have to necessarily be rich either, because you have different levels of people that are involved in this thing, right? All it takes is for you to be involved. And they've got doctors, lawyers, judges, politicians that are all also involved. Do you understand what I mean? This is the nature of America right now. You're seeing the dual lifestyle, the double existence right before your eyes unfolding, right? The reason why Martin was waving a pistol in the street saying that they're trying to kill him is because they were. Because the taxi cab driver um, that he's been picked up by can look behind him and say, "Hey, Martin, aren't you in trouble? Ain't they trying to get you right now? You might want to watch your back." And Martin's like, "What? What are you talking about? Well, how do you know?" Do you see what I'm saying? It's these, and this is not something that actually happened. This is an example of the type of things that they were doing in the movie to Michael Douglas, right? They were doing something called gang stalking. Have you guys ever heard of gang stalking? It's really a terrifying thing. You hear what I'm saying? What they do, and I first heard about this years ago, and it's what these cults, because it's a satanic cult that you're dealing with, you have all of these, wacko groups that are low level, low money, just bum Satanists. But those are a lot of people. Those are most of the satanic folks, is these nobodies that are just in their basement, right? So these big groups of folks that are like pagan witches and gothic and all of this different things are involved in these cults, and they have people that control them, and they are willing to do wild things to become higher members or higher forms of whatever it is in their cult. So what they'll do is they'll hire these guys to stalk people. And you could have a group of 25 people that are just assigned to you, right? Just a cloud of people that are assigned to you. Do you understand how terrifying that would be? That you have people that are consistently walking by your house, people that are following you to and from the store, people that are, watching you while you sleep even. So many people that you can't even keep count of how many people that you regularly see. Like, you may see one person that you saw the other day and think, man, why is this person always around me, right? But you don't recognize the 20 other people who are also just meandering around you. And we know this to be the case. We know this is how they operate, because of a Clinton, uh, because of a Clinton trial that was in Washington, D.C., where one of the witnesses from Arkansas, I believe it was from Arkansas, and I believe it had to do with Rose Law Firm. If you guys are familiar with the Clintons and their illegal activities back in Arkansas before Bill Clinton was president, he ended up getting in trouble with these land deals, these housing deals that ended up being like Ponzi schemes. And the law firm that Hillary Clinton worked at, Rose Law Firm, was in charge of, the accounting or monitor or some sort of I don't think it was defense. It was some sort of business transaction that this Rose law firm was also in with the Clintons on these particular deals. That, the law firm was the one who handled and represented the Clintons in these dealings, and thus they were also complicit in this Ponzi scheme. So one of the witnesses was coming to Washington, D.C. to testify in this hearing. And before she could get to the hearing, and this is what she testified to, you guys, that she's in a crowded place. This is Washington, D.C., and she's going up to one of the main buildings in Washington through Capitol Square or some sort of large open area. And y'all, she says that one person begins to follow her, just staring at her on the way as she's walking in, or walking towards the building. And I guess she's got a little bit of a walk to get to where she's going, because as she's walking on this path, another person starts to follow her, and another person, and another person, and another person, you guys. This is her testimony, her actual live testimony is that 25 people, and this is where we get the number of people that are, assigned to a person because of the actual live evidence that we have of them doing something like this. 25 people following this one lady, staring at her before she goes into trial, y'all, before she goes in to testify. Isn't that crazy, you guys? This gang stalking, this is what they do. They get people on you from their community, and in their community they have all of these weirdos, and they all love doing crazy stuff like this, right? They all love doing satanic stuff. So they're up to follow and troll and all these different weird things, call and hang up, or, write stuff on your car, or, just play pranks on you, until you go crazy, right? This is how they portray this secret world, right? That anybody could be a part of the group. So you gotta watch. They even had video where this jogger was going down the street. This woman claimed that she was gang stalked, and said, "Look, there she is. She comes by every day. It's this jogger, and she's been jogging by my house, and sometimes I'll see her stop and look. It's weird. I don't like this jogger." And people are thinking that she's paranoid. This is just a random woman, right? On YouTube. She's saying, "Y'all think I'm paranoid, but watch." And she videos her going past the house, jogging past the house, and stopping, turning back and looking, going up and looking, and she catches her several different times doing this very thing to her, right? So they've got this jogger that is pretending to be in the community just jogging, but is actually stalking this person. Do you understand what I mean? This is how they have embedded in reality all of these different secret weapons or secret personnel that can be activated at any time. Do you understand what I mean? This is the nature of reality. The nature of reality is like that movie Game. Do you see what I'm saying? The Game with Michael Douglas. This is why Puff Daddy going to jail is important, because he's, you know, related illegally to this network of Satanists. And this network of Satanists is like the worst people that you could ever imagine. They do all and every evil thing, and they're all connected. This is how they worship. So when you say, "Oh, Puff Daddy is getting, what he deserves, he's getting his justice," it's true. He may be getting his justice right now, but you don't know what the situation is there. You don't even know how he's being, contained. Because the thing about it is, These same groups control the prison system. These same groups control the federal agencies, the three-letter agencies. In fact, they are the agencies themselves. The best place to get spies from is from the spy agencies. You guys have heard of going undercover, right? Well, that's what gang stalking is. It is actually a police technique. And so this is why these cults use it. This is why you've got Martin running around in the street. This is why you've got Anne Hesh on the back of a stretcher, lifting up, trying to get off of the stretcher before they slam her in and shut the door on the back of the ambulance. And then she dies, right? Do you guys know who Anne Hesh is? She was, she died a couple years ago, but she was Ellen DeGeneres' partner, longtime partner. And they publicly, you guys know who Ellen DeGeneres is. High level witch on daytime television. And so they publicly were divorced or split or whatever it is that they do, right? They split. Well, after the split, you know, this woman mysteriously dies, right? She dies in this weird way. She's in a car accident, but it looks like her car has just had a mind of its own and sped off down the street and slams into somebody's house, right? You know, injuring her severely. So when she gets, you know, into the when the ambulance gets there and pulls her out of the car, puts her on the stretcher and gets ready to take her into the ambulance, we literally see, it's on video, that she doesn't want to go. Do you see what I'm saying? She doesn't want to go. That she is on the back of the stretcher, like lifting up and like trying hysterical, and the ambulance pushes her back down, and they put her in the back of the ambulance and close the doors, taking her to the hospital, and next thing you know, she's dead. Do you understand what I'm saying? They have ambulance operators, they have ambulance dispatchers on standby waiting to intercept your phone call or the phone call about you to send their guys in to make sure that you don't survive. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you do you guys get how crazy that is? Picture it as if it's a movie, right? You're in a car. You know you've had this public breakup with this person who's very dangerous and who has at their disposal lots of murder tools, right? Lots of weapons in the arsenal that the public, by and large, doesn't know about, doesn't believe to exist, or doesn't believe people are evil enough to actually use these weapons in secret, right? And so these things exist. You get into your car, right? You get into your car, you put your seatbelt on, you've got a new car. You've got to understand how deep it goes. You've got a new car, so your car system is computerized, which means any old hacker can hack into your car's computer and take over the wheel. Do you understand what I'm saying? This was technology that's from the Obama administration. They figured out how to do this back in 2010, 11, 12, during Obama. You see what I'm saying? They killed Matt Sterling, one of the journalists for the Rolling Stone, who was breaking a story on some general. And they killed him in his car. Matthew Hastings is his name. You guys look this up. They killed him in his car. They locked the doors. They took over the car remotely. They drove it into a pole. They killed Fast and Furious guy in the same way. They locked his doors remotely, just sped it up, crashed him into a tree. I can't remember his name, but he was the actor from Fast and Furious. They killed him in that way. And they put him in a car to add insult to industry. You see, I mean, insult to injury. You see, it's a game, right? So they killed him in the fashion that he's depicted, fast and furious. They killed him fast and furiously. You understand what I'm saying? This is the game. You play the game, and there's no rules. You get to do whatever you want to do. So Anne Hesh gets in her car. The doors lock, and the car starts and drives off. You can look at it in the movie setting because you're sitting there looking at, an actress already. Do you see what I'm saying? You can look at it like what you would see in a movie, the way that they portray these things happening in a movie. This high technology, this high suspense, high intrigue is real, right? So all that we see of the situation is Anne Hesh flying down a residential road, car leaving the ground, slamming into a house, going so fast that it hitting a bump and it's leaving the ground and slamming into a house. We see her on a stretcher. The next thing we know, we see her on a stretcher, lifting up and trying to get out of the ambulance. These are the two clues that we have to understand the rest of the situation. Do you understand what I mean? These are the two clues that we have to figure out why Anne Hesh is trying not to be helped, because she knows that once she gets into the ambulance, that they're going to kill her at the hospital or right there in the back of the ambulance. Somehow she knows that. Do you understand what I'm saying? And it could play out in any number of ways, any number of cinematic ways, because you're in the game, right? And it's part of the game to be cinematic. And so the suspense, the thrill, the intrigue, all of it's there in real life too. What a life to lead. Do you see what I'm saying? To be involved in this craziness. It could go something like this. Anne Hesh is realizing that her car is trying to kill her. She knows automatically this is in retaliation for whatever from this powerful person, Ellen DeGeneres. She knows that already, right? And she already knows that if she survives the crash, there's another means by which to kill her coming pretending to help her. So when they get there, she doesn't know if it's regular rescue or not. Something had to happen to tip her off so that she could know that it was people getting ready to kill her, which is why this was the only reason that an injured person would fight going into the ambulance. Do you see what I'm saying? This is the only reason why. So it could have gone like this. Hey, we're here to help, and we're here to take really good care of you. And she looks up and recognizes the situation and fights. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm saying, guys? How scary is that? Do you understand? Knowing that it could come from anywhere, at any time, by anybody. If you can imagine a society within a society that part of the game that they play is who's going to sacrifice who first, who is a big enough star or willing to be a big enough star to sacrifice these people before they can sacrifice you. Do you see what I'm saying? Brothers, sisters, mothers, daughters, friends, husbands, wives. Do you see what I'm saying? What type of wildness, of wild situation would you be in? Do you see what I'm saying? Is it a wonder why people are deleting their Instagram or whatever, their Twitter, and moving out of the country? Is it a wonder that people are fleeing Do you see what I'm saying? Because this is the part of the game. The game is to play it and not get caught. And they don't mean caught by the police, because the police are the originators of the game, because the techniques that they use are police techniques, undercover techniques, spy techniques. So they get this game literally from the CIA, from the FBI, from the DEA, from the NSA, from the Navy SEALs, from the Delta Force, from the Special Forces, right? From all of these different groups which go undercover, go dark, go rogue. Do you see what I'm saying? And they're all one group. So any parts, any members of any part of the groups are active all at once. So you can't get caught. I mean, you when they say you don't get caught in doing these things, they mean not that you don't get caught by the police or that you don't get caught by the FBI, because they are there to eliminate competition and to keep things looking like they are normal, looking like they're prosecuting cases. The reason that the FBI exists is to keep black people from having too much money. You see all the big FBI stings and raids are mostly of drugs. Do you see what I'm saying? Drug dealers and people that have become independently wealthy from music and drugs and other things in the country that could pose a significant threat, because of course the FBI are the biggest drug dealers, the CIA are the biggest drug dealers. Anybody that gets out of that circle then becomes, you know, fodder for reality fuel. Do you see what I'm saying? The feds swoop in on Diddy and they discover all of these tapes and now justice is going to be served. No, they've exposed Diddy and now it's his turn to go through this particular judgment ritual. That's what this is. It's a judgment ritual that ends in real life judgment, that ends in real life punishment, that could end in real life incarceration or death, right? Because it was his time. It was someone else's time to be on top. It's Puff Daddy's time to go. Do you understand what I mean? They're not trying to not get caught by the feds. The feds are the leaders of the gang. You guys have to hear me when I say they are not worried about the feds. They work for the feds. The federal agencies are the ones that protect the rappers. They keep talking about the hip hop police and the FBI is watching them, all this other stuff. They're watching them because they're protected by them. They're assets. They're the ones that are bringing all the hatred into the community. So they got to make sure that they're protected. That's why, Tupac had police escorts. That's why Death Row had, you know, LAPD agents on the team. That's why all of these things exist in the way that they do, because the FBI, the top cops, are ensuring that they're so. Do you understand what I mean? They're the ones that are orchestrating the entire game. That's the FBI are the major gang, are the major part of the cog system that is this game that operates in America. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm saying? That you can't say that, oh, the FBI's got him and now they're going to inflict justice, because the FBI is the one responsible for all the child trafficking in the first place. They're the only ones who have access to the data banks that have all of the missing persons in it, to know which ones to investigate, which ones not to investigate. They're the ones that have federal access to be able to hide information, to change information, to insert information that's misinformation. They're the ones that control the law enforcement in the country. So anything that slides under the radar, quote unquote, has to be something that they have initiated themselves. If you have 100,000 missing people in the United States every year, it's because it's a smooth operation. And it's a smooth operation because it's run by the people who create the laws. It just so happens they need a major figure to go down right now in order to make them look like a real investigating unit. Do you guys understand that Puff Daddy don't not worried about the FBI? He hadn't been worried about the FBI for 30 years. He only has to worry about his network turning on him. That's all he has to worry about. And that's a significant worry because that's what this network does. It's known for turning on people after they lose their usefulness. Do you see what I'm saying, you guys? This is the way that the game is set up. You guys don't know this, but, I was told this by, you know, um, one of my cousins that was formerly in a gang and, still has gang affiliation. But what they said is that, you have gang structure throughout every city, but at the top of the gang structure is the FBI agent. You guys don't recognize that the leader of the GDs is an FBI agent. You guys don't recognize that the leader of uh, the BDs is an FBI agent. The leader of the Bloods is an FBI agent. The leader of the Crips is an FBI agent. The leader of the Vice Lords is an FBI agent. I mean, my cousin told me straight away, there's an FBI agent that runs this city. There's one that runs that city. And this is where we get our marching orders from. It's just trickled down through the chief. This is how it works. The FBI controls the guns. The FBI controls the drugs. They pick and choose which ones to let through. They pick and choose which ones to bust to make it look like they're actually doing an investigative service and not just the top police force to oppress Hebrews with. Do you see what I'm saying? This is the nature of reality, that everyone that's involved is involved. Politicians, from politicians to 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 cookie shop owners, and you guys will understand the reference from Young Dolph, right? Taken out in a cookie shop with clearly the workers of the cookie shop, the owners of the cookie shop, somehow involved, right? Somehow involved in this high profile murder. You have the people in the entourage of King Von all setting him up to go and get himself killed. You look at the footage from King. I know you guys probably are unfamiliar with rap artists in the drill scene, but King Von is probably the biggest rap artist to come out since a long time, right? They're comparing him to Tupac and all of these other different things because he's a killer or supposedly a killer, right? But he ends up getting killed. Guys, you don't recognize that they had footage of his murder, and in the footage of his murder, he's the only one wearing white. Do you see what I'm saying? He's the only one wearing white. And that's crazy because, excuse me, because an artist of his caliber is dressed for the day, has a publicist, has a manager who's gonna have his wardrobe because his wardrobe has to be a certain way because he'll be pictured, he'll be in interviews, he'll be in concert, and he can't look just any old kind of way. Most people have stylists that put together their outfits, right? So someone puts together his outfits and they put them together in all white on the day that he goes to get killed. He's the only one out there in all white. This is a this is a FBI technique that identifies the target. Do you understand what I'm saying? If everybody else is wearing all these other different colors, but you got one person wearing all white, then he's the unbeknownst to him, he's the star of the show. And all the other people that are in on the game can play the game and know the game and be organized around the event that's getting ready to happen. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay, so we're all playing around all white. you know that the target is the guy in all white. So we behave around him. Once it goes down, we know who is the intended target. We know where he is because he's the only one dressed in all white. And we can adjust appropriately because there's eyes on him the entire time, right? Do you guys understand that? Do you guys understand that King Von, that this implicates King Von's manager in on his death? Isn't it funny that lots of people's managers are implicated in their death? Do you see what I'm saying? There's others that are the same way because it's this game. This is the way that the game is played. Those same people that are being gang stalked are victims of the gang or of the game. And some of the pawns of the game are the gangs, right? These satanic groups that are claiming to be, urban gangs when they're just mini cults, right? They have all satanic symbology. They got hand signs, which are black magic. It's like, uh, they got magic words. You see what I'm saying? Words that make the other party mad. Words that, they call one another. These are magic words. You see, a loaded term. You call it magic. They call it, in modern language, they call it neuro-linguistic programming. It's these loaded words which mean more to the person that's using them because they're in this system that appropriates other concepts with these loaded words, right? So this is what you're looking at. You're looking at a world within a world that is parasitic, right? That is looking to destroy and devour, that creates propaganda about itself, that describes itself to people that have no clue. And people are just falling into the trap and then either becoming predators themselves or just prey. Do you see what I'm saying? This is what Michael Douglas has entered into, where he, in the first day of the game, uh, runs into this waiter, and the waiter's like, "Oh, excuse me," and the waiter like, splashes some wine on his shirt, and he's like, "Ugh, man, look at this." And then the last day of the game, or when he's initiated into, this ending phase of the game, this same waiter comes out, and he's just like a passing moment in the beginning of the movie, but this waiter comes out and says, "Excuse me." And he's like, "Oh, I recognize you. You was just this side character, right? Just this, peripheral figure in frame that caused a minute inconvenience in my life. And even that was planned." Do you see what I'm saying? This is the world that you're operating in. This is the world that is operating around you, that if you are not protected, then you're falling into basically butt naked, right? That you don't have any protection against any of it. This is why Paul says, put on the whole armor of Elohim, that you can withstand the fiery darts of the devil, right? And I butchered that verse too, but you guys know the verse. Do you see what I mean? You can't be, trapped in this game if you don't play, right? You can't be um, a victim of it if you're protected, right? If you're protected from on high, and if you are a victim of it being protected, then you're not going down with it. You're going down because of it. Therefore, you're righteous in that loss, in taking that loss. Do you see what I'm saying? The unrighteous system that killed the prophets or that killed the apostles, benefited them because it offered them everlasting life. If you are killed by the system because you were a part of the system, then you don't have that same benefit, right? But being able to identify that this is the world that you live in, this is the reality of the way that the world operates, then you should be able to recognize these hallmarks in reality when you see them. You know that they have automated self-driving cars now. So if you see somebody in a high-speed, very strange wreck, Michael Hastings was um, not known to be just I believe he had one DUI, but he wasn't known to just be some sort of speed freak who would just, rev up to 100 and smash his car into a parking lot beam, the parking garage beam. Just not known to be a reckless driver. Do you see what I'm saying? But this is the way that he died. The guy Paul, his name is Paul Walker. That's what his name was. The guy Paul Walker did drive fast cars, but this one was unnatural in its the way that it looked. So much so that it disturbed Tyrese. Tyrese and him were good friends. After Paul Walker's death, Tyrese wasn't right for a very long time. Do you see what I'm saying? This is because he knows the way that they do. He looks up and sees his buddy do something wrong. He sees it, and then he sees how they deal with him. They deal with him in a in a sarcastic. They kill him in a sarcastic way. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like Tony Soprano. You guys are familiar with Tony Soprano, James Gandolfini, right? James Gandolfini dies in Italy, like at a Italian restaurant, eating spaghetti or something ridiculously stereotypical, right? Has a heart attack. Do you see what I'm saying? He was overweight. Um, he did have eating problems, you know, but the coincidence is the calling card. Does that make sense? This is how you know that it was a part of the game, because the game wants you to know, right? If you're playing the game and you look up and see James Gandolfini dies of heart attack while eating spaghetti in an Italian restaurant in Italy, then you think, oh my gosh, that's almost too satirical to be true. It's that way because it was designed that way. His death was designed to be a message. Hey, not only can we kill you, we can kill you in a ridiculously invisible way, to where that it can be such an obvious murder and such an obvious cartoonishly evil murder that because it's so cartoonishly evil, people won't believe it's real. And thus, it's a real, invisible, secret weapon. And thus, you can use it to scare the life out of people. Do you see what I'm saying? Oh, yeah, that was one of ours. Look, we even made it look like real life. We even made a joke, a funny, in his murder. Do you see what I'm saying? To clown somebody in their death. Do you understand how wild that is? As a Hollywood actor or actress that is, being coerced into doing something illegal, which is the way that they do things, you just look up and say, oh, well, I guess we'll just do you like Tony Soprano then, Martin. I mean, of course, Martin had his meltdown years before Tony Soprano had his, was killed. But imagine somebody new coming in, and let's just talk about somebody new. Who's somebody new that 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 is who could we use? That might be new, that wouldn't know the way that things work. I guess we could use anybody, really, because I mean I don't know any of these new actors, or are there any new actors? Back in the day, we had black actors, but we don't really have a whole bunch of new. Okay, looks like we're back on, but yeah, we could use somebody new or somebody in the last few years. Let's just say Gucci Mane. Okay, Gucci Mane, we know you're a big Sopranos fan. This is just an example, you guys. You seen how he died, right? You seen how he died. That was our work. We made it look like that so nobody would know. Wouldn't you like to go out like that? Wouldn't you like to go out in your own, like, twisted media? Go out in the way that you lived? Yeah, because nobody would know that it was us. Wouldn't that scare the life out of you? Wouldn't that make you do whatever illegal thing that they wanted you to do? Because you're set up, you're in this game, and you don't have a choice, really. You're being blackmailed into doing these wild things, right? Because that's the part of the game. Part of the game in the movie was that Michael Douglas was blackmailed, that they had all these pictures of him and they were putting these pictures out. And and he was like, man, I'll be ruined if these pictures get out. And well, you better behave, right? This is the way that it works. This is the way that that society operates. You're literally a slave to this game, and everybody is playing each other to get an edge over each other. Do you see what I'm saying? And it's from top to bottom. Have you seen have you seen this Kanika Jenkins case? This is an old case, y'all. This is like a 6-year-old case, right? But it's the strangest thing. It has to do with all of this underground secret society kidnapping people, because this is what they do. They kidnap people. And so it seems that this young woman was kidnapped, and in just the weirdest way, because it was promoted as her, partying, and ended up being locked in this freezer, right? And so lots of people on YouTube are investigating this and have been investigating it for years and years and years. And I only, came across it in my peripheral because it seemed like something that could happen, that, this young girl is, doing drugs and they're just kind of goofing off in this hotel and just stumbles into the freezer and can't get out. It seems like something that could actually happen. Until you figure out the freezer, the hotel is owned by Bill Murray. Do you see what I'm saying? A Hollywood actor. Been in Hollywood for 40 years, Bill Murray, right? Until you watch the movie Get Out, where they're where they're trying to kidnap black folks for their organs. Do you see what I'm saying? Now, the premise of the movie may not be real. You can't, implant somebody's eyes into somebody else or do anything like that. But the organ trafficking market is for real. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's not a coincidence that she ends up in a freezer, because her organs are probably being preserved. Do you see what I'm saying? And not only this, the weird thing about that is, girl. And the weird thing about it is that that you start having all of this interplay behind the scenes about what happened to this girl. Now, I was listening to one of these YouTubers. One of the YouTubers is named Zach TV, and he was a Chicago blogger that would go into these different hoods while this gang war was going on and would document the gang wars, right? And so this is how we know a lot of the information about what's going on, or what did go on in Chicago, from this one blogger, right? And so it turns out that somehow he gets to going, investigating this particular case. And then another blogger does, and then another blogger does, and they all start investigating this case. And they start investigating it and putting out YouTube material and start getting money investigating this case. And now they're doing all sorts of stuff. They're calling the hotel, they're calling the coroner's office, they're trying to do all of these different things. Come to find out, and this is what's crazy, y'all. Come to find out that these particular YouTubers that are doing this particular YouTube case, this Kanika Jenkins case, because the police are investigating it, it's YouTubers that are doing that. Turns out they're in Chicago. Like, you don't know that they're in Chicago, well, because this thing happens in Chicago. You don't know that they're in Chicago until something slips and says, well, you was there. Why don't you tell us what happened? You was there? So not only in Chicago, but in the vicinity of the disappearance, involved. You're talking about YouTubers that have been, talking about the case for months after the case and never mentioning that they were there or that they know one another, and that before they started investigating this case and what appeared to be an organic meetup between, two YouTubers or three or four actually started before the murder, the disappearance, or whatever you want to call it, the controversy started before, and that they had met up before, and they were all sharing information, and that they all knew the crowd of the dead young lady, and they have even been at the hotel during the time of the disappearance. This comes out about three or four of the YouTubers, y'all, that were promoting this investigation as if they themselves may have been involved. What a weird world we live in, where you're just looking up at something you think is natural, and a YouTuber, reporting on it like it's a natural thing, and then find out that the YouTuber that's reporting on it was there, but they haven't said anything about being there. They're investigating it as if they were never there themselves. It's not just one, it's two, three, maybe even four different YouTubers. Tells you there's a whole other industry that's going on behind the scenes that is profiting people in multiple ways and is hidden in multiple places. Do you see what I'm saying? How these YouTubers end up getting ultra popular because they're plants. They're YouTube plants. They're music industry plants from this secret community that exists as a web across the United States that some people know exist and some people don't. That involve cops, judges, FBI agents, lawyers, doctors. So you can go under the knife and be with one of these people and get taken out, and the doctor could write hemorrhage, unexplained hemorrhage, and then write the thing off. Or, you know, give you something, a medication or something to react with what they've done to you, and you die later. Do you see what I'm saying? Michael Jackson, Prince, these names ring a bell. They've got, for James Gandolfini, you think that having a heart attack is just some sort of natural way to die. They exposed in the 70s that they've got CIA has a weapon called a heart attack gun. And I put it in one of my old videos way back in the day. Um, but what it is it's like a liquid nitrogen gun. And it has this, engine inside of it that keeps these darts, this poison dart frozen, right? And it's like a slip of ice that this gun is. So it's like really a dart gun. It's like a ice shooter. And what it does is it shoots this frozen poison inside of your body, and the poison slips into your body so seamlessly that it barely leaves just a small pinprick on your body. And what then happens, the poison melts inside of your body and then affects you in such a way that you have a heart attack. And the heart attack actually mimics a heart attack. It doesn't leave any residue behind to say that you've been poisoned. It looks like you just had a heart attack. So any strange, unexplained heart attack in the industry, in politics, or in any of these places is potentially this heart attack gun. And that's been the case since 1978. Do you see what I'm saying? Since 1978. Do you understand? This was revealed based on the CIA. And I think this was maybe even, I think it was the Clark, the church hearings, right? After the CIA was exposed, they had to, I think this was the church hearings that were after um, the when the Catholic group raided the FBI office in Pennsylvania during the night of the Thriller in Manila. I think this was in response to these files being released from secret Catholic group that went in and stole FBI paperwork and released the information and found out the program COINTELPRO was a secret spy program that had, you know, that 1 in every 6 people in the black community was a part of. Do you see what I'm saying? Was an informant operating in. Didn't know that they were a part of the FBI, but 1 in every 6 in these big black communities like LA, Washington, DC, Detroit, 1 in every 6 people was an informant. They said they had 200 agents working the city of LA alone. And each of the 200 agents had at least 10 to 15, at least, informants that were feeding them information about the community at all times. This is the game. This is the network, the secret network that you don't know exists, right? If the FBI has that sort of influence in the black community, on paper even, then they could stop every drug deal that happens. Running the drug deals, they appreciate active. This is what they were set up to do. And the game has us trapped in it. Do you see what I mean? We don't even know that we're participating in this game, but we're victims of it because the game is going on all around us, and we're the ones that actually fall victims to it, whether we know it or not, whether we are in the cult or not. The cult is actively dedicated to oppressing and destroying us. So when you see these high-profile murders, these high-profile arrests, you just know also that they are targets against us, right? Because what's going to happen is that the music industry will be destroyed, that we won't have any historical figures like Marvin Gaye or James Brown or any residual money coming into the community from music, because all of our heroes from the last generation corrupted to such an extent that they were able to be destroyed in their latter days. Do you see what I'm saying? We can't watch any Bill Cosby because Bill Cosby's image was destroyed. Therefore, his generational wealth is destroyed. We can't listen to any R. Kelly because R. Kelly's history was destroyed. His ability to be historical as a musician is destroyed now because of his legacy. Same thing for Puff Daddy. Same thing is going to happen for Jay-Z. Same thing for all of 90s black music. That's what they're doing. They're destroying it so that they can repackage it themselves under a new brand to just steal the residuals off of it. To steal. That's why, all of these artists have been selling their publishing. Lil Wayne was sent to prison and didn't get out until he sold his publishing. Not a coincidence that it was Trump that pardoned Lil Wayne and let him out of prison is because he was planning to sell his publishing, right? They are systematically destroying the generational wealth, the ability to create generational wealth and to continue to have residual wealth coming in from your from your masters, from your publishing. They're destroying that. So people selling their publishing for all these $75 million and $80 million is nothing because you're already entrapped in this deep game, and whenever they want, they can arrest you and your assets. Do you see what I'm saying? Like they're doing Puff Daddy. Puff Daddy supposedly has 200 million in cash that he can't use, right, to defend himself with, because now his assets are going to be frozen, and if he's found guilty of sex trafficking or whatever, or from profit off of it, it's just going to be seized. It's just going to be seized. Do you see what I'm saying? You can trade publishing for money, but that money will perish if your legacy perishes, right? And if you won't do that, and won't sell your publishing, then they'll just expose you and then make your publishing worth nothing. This is the way that the game works. The game is designed to destroy the wealth in the black community. And look at what you got. We talked about the other day that they're rebuilding the projects in America. They've got something called the Homes Act right now, but what it does is it It dedicates $30 billion to rebuilding the project system in America. And if you guys thought the last iteration of the projects was bad, which we know the concentration camps, just think about the future concentration camps, the future projects. If you think that there's anything good coming out of this, then you are confused. Do you see what I'm saying? It'll be promoted like a step up for the black community, just like the last projects were. But they will be more of the same, except somehow worse, because now we have a whole community of gang members that are waiting to take these territories. And whether they're big or small, they will be war zones. And the future is not looking bright. This is the game, y'all. And if you play the game or are in the game, then you will lose unless you have supernatural protection in Yahweh, Elohim, Yisrael. Do you understand, guys? This is the only way out of it. The game that is being played is playing all around you, and you're affected by it. There are secret operatives and agents that are doing all of these things. Your favorite artist is an operative of the game. Snoop knew that Tupac would get killed because he was an operative of the game. When Tupac was killed, everybody there was in on it. That means Suge. That means Snoop. That means all of the entourage. That means the other side entourage, the Crips or whatever, the other side. That means Puff. That means everybody. The system lapses on you and they work together against you. You see an interview that Snoop and Tupac had the same day, and Pac is just wilding, yeah, da 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 da. And Snoop's just like, dang, if you just only knew what was gonna happen to you tonight. Because he knows. They all know, right? Mike Tyson was the one that convinced Tupac to even go to Vegas. Do you see what I'm saying? Mike Tyson is the one that was trying to get him to go to Vegas. The court system was trying to get him to go to Vegas so that he could do his community service there. They were all, for months, trying to get him to go to Vegas, you guys. And he didn't want to go, didn't want to go, didn't want to go. They finally convinced him to go, and when he went, he was killed. That means that they were all complicit. The game closed in on him. Do you see what I'm saying? Same thing for Big, that he's killed in LA, right? That's why it seems like all these different people are involved, because they are. And I was saying, oh, why is this person involved? Why is this person involved? Why is this person? What sense does it make for this person to be involved? It does when you recognize that the system can close in on you and you can become a victim of the game, and you can die. Michael Douglas in the movie The Game almost dies because he's, in this game where everybody's messing with him and nobody's messing with him. And it makes him look like he's crazy, but he's actually just a victim. You see all these things happening. You see people going crazy right in front of you and don't recognize that they're a part of this wild game. And you don't recognize that you're crazy. You don't recognize that you're in the game too, because the part of the game is to warp your mind into playing it too, right? That's part of the game, you guys. And there's lots of other elements, lots of other aspects to it that, that deserve mentioning so that you can be aware and cognizant of the danger that you have, in America. There's also splinters, all sorts of, hidden aspects, right? And I guess we can talk about this more at another time. We haven't had much involvement in this particular episode. I know what I need to do is make this more of a real show. Lots of people are blogging and lots of people have ideas and, lots of people are coming on and talking. But what we as believers need to do is put together a whole picture for people so that people don't have to run here and there and there and there to get the information that they need to put together pieces of what they see together, right? You don't have too many pastors talking about the things that are going on and making people aware of the nature of the beast that they're watching, of the nature of the things that they're looking at. because people are confused. People are talking about the FBI is going to deliver justice to Puff Daddy. That's like saying, that that the bank robber is going to restore that the bank robber is the person to put in charge of the bank. Like the bank president is actually this bank robber, right? That's the same thing because the FBI has been implicated in child trafficking, forever since people have known about child trafficking. People know the only people that could get away with coming in and out of the border and have all of these hookups to the the social services and all sorts of things are the police. These are the only people that can slip in unnoticed, and the top police are the FBI, people that are unquestioned, right? You see what I'm saying? The FBI were involved. Do you guys remember the Oklahoma City bombing? The FBI is implicated in the bombing because they knew about the suspects and were following the suspects, giving the suspects money, coordinating with the suspects the entire time, right? So it was the FBI that did the Oklahoma City bombing. It's the FBI that destroyed Waco. Do you see what I'm saying? This is the arm, the enforcement arm, the largest enforcement arm of the game. And it's always been a game. And it's always been, given to the people, um, the winners of the game, right? The Bill Clintons, the Trumps, the Bushes. These are the crime families which are successful at playing this game, this lying game, where you have to keep up the reality of the false reality when you're actually just, living the satanic reality. Do you see what I'm saying? These are the winners in that game because they go on to be these figures, these presidents, these mafia bosses, right? Donald Trump is a mafia boss. Barack Obama is a mafia boss. Um, but Joe Biden is a mafia boss. Look at his son, right? Donald Trump is a mafia boss. Vegas, casino owning mafia boss. So don't be fooled by this game. Don't participate in it. If you're going to vote, you're, you know, fooled by this game. Found this out today that this is the type of games that they play. I've been hearing that Kamala Harris wasn't black, for a few weeks now, and didn't really understand why people were saying that because apparently her dad is black and from Jamaica. But it's not so. He's actually an Indo-Jamaican. You guys know that Indian people receive benefits going and setting up shops in Jamaica like they do in America. That the British government, has benefits for people that are coming in and setting up, hotels and gas stations and, things like that in Jamaica for them to use because they don't want to run this stuff there in Jamaica. They send in this buffer class of people to Jamaica to run these Jamaican businesses so that when they come, they can not have the people of the country maintaining their wealth and the exact same due to the Indians in America and the black community. And this is what Kamala is. She is the daughter of an Indo-Jamaican and an Indian, right? So she's really fully Indian and has been cosplaying black her entire life, right? And really raised to be cosplayed black. Do you see what I'm saying? She's really full Indian, y'all, which is crazy. It's crazy. But that's part of the game to have this in your face deception with a woman who is talking about carrying Tabasco sauce in her purse, and she's really an Indian, right? She's really just full blood Indian, not black at all. You see what I'm saying? It's just crazy because this is the way that this game works, you guys. And so we know how to stay out of it. We know, how to conceptually not get trapped in it, not trapped in its psychology. So that's really all I got, you guys. I could turn this into a much bigger thing, but I'm going to let this be it just because it's a topic that, goes into a lot of wild places, and I don't want to really focus on those things, even though I want people to be knowledgeable, speak about these things, in knowledge. So maybe this will be a once in, a once in a blue moon style of reporting so that we can really, kind of dive into the operations of the game and how it works and how it singles people out and, how when the game is closing in on you, they're multifaceted. It works in the court system, it works in the media. Notice that they had to, kind of destroy Puff Daddy's character before they arrested him. They've been kind of destroying his character for the past year or so, but they were, had awards dedicated to him. Do you see what I'm saying? But in the past year, they've been destroying his character. And this is so that they could, in this upcoming trial, you know, destroy his wealth too, and also destroy his influence, and then also destroy his example for the black community. Say, this is what black entrepreneurship gets you. Do you see what I'm saying? So, you guys, this has been a rundown on the underground operations of America. And it is told through the lens of this movie, The Game by Douglas, where every aspect of your reality is potentially a part of this game, to where you don't know who is and who is not in it, and living your life on the edge of a razor because of that. Because each participant in the game is actually also both friend and foe, because this is the way that the game operates. That you need help, but you also need to fight too, so that you can, have the next step up, right? And that works out, by people sacrificing one another and backstabbing one another and working with both the drug dealer and the drug enforcers, and the drug dealers turning out themselves to be the drug enforcers, or the enforcement agencies themselves turning out to be the biggest drug dealers, and just this wacky and wild roller coaster lifestyle that is down into the abyss, right? Okay, you guys, that's all I got on this one. We may have this, like I said, we may have this being a reoccurring thing as these events begin to unfold. But until then, we will just stay tuned and watch what's going on, and we can watch it together, you guys. All right. Shalom, shalom.